What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV, aka Darth Apocalypse. So this is a video request from the brother Dorian. He wanted me to do a what if scenario between the 1972 Los Angeles Lakers and 1998 Chicago Bulls. Now, if this is a best of seven series, since those Lakers teams had 69 victories versus the Bulls 62 that year, they would have home court advantage. And I think that would be decisive in this particular series. So I'm already giving my answer away. I know some of you guys are already going to unsubscribe and revolt, but whatever. Sometimes I think people just want me to say what they want me to hear, what they want me to hear. They want me to say what they want to hear rather than what I actually think. But um, the Chicago Bulls were still a dominant team, but they were showing some signs of weaknesses. They were showing some signs that age was catching up to them. Scotty was not the same offensive player by 1998 that he had been just the year before, or definitely 2 or 3 years before. Also, because Scotty was usually, by that point in time, because Scotty was often assigned the more potent offensive threat. By that point in time, while Mike was being saved more for offense, it did take away from Scotty's offense. At the time when I was a Bulls fan, a teenager, I didn't really factor that in. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of us used to curse Scotty for his inconsistency offensively. But then, by the late 90s, the lanes were clogging up. We were entering the dead ball era. If you didn't have a mid-range jumper or a real bag in your offensive arsenal, then if you had been mostly a slasher, you're going to see a significant drop in your field goal percentage. That's what we saw with Scotty. We saw that with Clyde Drexler, too. Drexler went from shooting around 49, 50%, 48%, to more around 43, 44% than 42, 41%. Right? But anyway, I think the Lakers are going to win this series in 6 or 7. And look, I get it. The Lakers were older too. But if we're snapshotting each team in time, outside of Michael Jordan, whose will to win was unparalleled, I think that 72 Lakers team was more driven to win. They were more hungry to win. Not to mention they didn't have a bad coach in Bill Sharman, who himself was a multi-champion player under the great Red Auerbach. And he picked up a lot of his coaching cues from Red Auerbach. So he was a Hall of Fame coach too, as well as a Hall of Fame player and a Hall of Fame general manager for the Lakers after his coaching stint. So the 72 Lakers essentially played like Russell's Celtics, excuse me. There was no iron team. Yeah, you had guys whose primary jobs were to score, but each one of these guys were also noted to be players who knew when to facilitate and when to get the ball to somebody who was hot or who was the best option to score. That's probably the best. It wasn't the most talented team that Wilt played on. That was the 67 76ers. But he said that was the best team he had ever been on, as far as guys being in lock, as far as, knowing their roles and gelling as a unit on the floor. By the 98 season, the Bulls were not quite as dominant as they had been in 96. So that makes it closer. I do think the Bulls have one X factor in their favor, and that's Tony Kukoc, right? But I think what's going to hurt the Bulls is the Lakers front court of Wilt Chamberlain and Happy Hairston. Dennis Rodman can't guard both these guys. Like, first of all, I love Dennis Rodman, right? Wilt Chamberlain at this stage of his career is not the same player, but Wilt's role was not to go out there and drop 30 points a game anymore. Essentially, Wilt was playing like Bill Russell, except for the fact that he was much more efficient than Bill Russell around the rim. Whereas Bill Russell was shooting 44% from the field, Chamberlain was shooting 65 to 75% from the field. That's when he had pretty much transitioned to being just around the rim power player. Dunks, layups, putbacks. Rodman, I don't think anybody has the strength to keep Wilt Chamberlain off the boards. Right? And even if you put Rodman on Wilt, and you say he plays the defense of his life and he limits Wilt to, let's say, 12 points and 17 rebounds a game. That's limiting Wilt, right? 3 blocks a game. That's limiting Wilt. 55% shooting. That's limiting Wilt. Even if you have the hacker Wilt strategy, you're still putting your front line in foul trouble doing that. Even if you're doing it, you're still putting the Bulls front line and the Bulls team in defensive penalty. It's too early. So, even with that, I don't know if that really works. And like I said, even if you try to slow down Wilt, Happy Hairston is a very underrated player. Happy Hairston was going to give you, in 1972, that season, 14 points and 14 rebounds himself, right? So Happy Hairston was sort of like a Rodman who could score a little bit better. So Happy Hairston will give you a double-double too. So if you put Rodman on Wilt, who's guarding Happy Hairston? Kukoc? Because if you put Kukoc on Happy Hairston, if Kukoc couldn't stop Dale Davis in the post, then the Bulls are fucked with Happy Hairston. He's going to drop 25 and 18 rebounds. I'm not saying he'll average that for the series, but he'll probably average like 18 and 16 in the series, and the Bulls still gonna get cooked. Luke Longley gonna be a liability up front in this series. He's gonna be a liability. Because Luke Longley's not gonna be able to guard Wilt Chamberlain. Even that version of Wilt Chamberlain, he's just not gonna be able to guard him. Because Luke doesn't have the mobility of a Willis Reed, of a Kareem. That gave that version of Wilt problems because Wilt wasn't the same player after that knee injury. But Luke Longley doesn't have that type of mobility, nor that type of offensive skill set. So Wilt's going to have a field day with the Chicago Bulls. Now, with Jerry West, scorer, playmaker, defender, you put Scottie Pippen on him, that's going to slow him down. I guess you could put Ron Harper on Gail Goodrich. That's going to slow him down. And you have Jim McMillan left. So I guess Jordan might have to guard McMillan. He'll probably slow him down. And with those matchups, you could argue the Bulls have some favorable matchups. But I don't think you're going to stop Jerry West, but you're going to slow him down if you put Pippen on him. But the problem is, what is Pippen going to give you offensively? Pippen, at that stage of his career, was very up and down. That's the same Scottie Pippen that averaged what? He missed half the season due to injury. He had that tender back. He averaged 15 points a game in the finals in '98. Now, I would imagine with the way that the 72 Lakers played, it will be a benefit to Pippen because it's going to be more up and down, faster pace, which could help open up the lanes and give Pippen more scoring opportunities. But then again, this isn't the 92 version of Pippen and 92 not version of Mike. You know, they're older. So that could wear them down. Playing defense like that throughout the course of a series, especially if Pippen's having to guard Jerry West and if Harper's having to guard Goodrich, who's going to be a handful for Harper, by the way. That's him in his prime. Goodrich was in his prime. So Harper's going to have a handful. I think Mike and Harper are going to try to slow down Gil Goodrich. So Nate McMillan might be an X factor. If that jumper's on, you know, the Bulls going to have to hope that that Nate McMillan can be held in check. You know what I'm saying? Now, Michael Jordan's going to be able to go off in this series, I think. Mike's going to average 30-something. That's no problem. The problem is going to be Mike will need some help offensively. And I don't know if, considering how much of a load defensively the Bulls are going to have on their hands, if Mike's going to have enough help from others. And that wasn't the strongest Chicago Bulls bench. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that was, that's pretty much along the 9-3 Bulls, the weakest Chicago Bulls bench that they had. Now, the 72 Lakers, they didn't have the strongest bench either. Pat Riley was on that team, and Pat Riley was an okay player. He wasn't great. Who was on that team? Flynn Robinson. I can't remember some of these other guys' names. I want to say Jim Clemens was on that team too. Who ironically became an assistant coach for the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. But I think all in all, I think the 72 Lakers win in 6, maybe 7 games. That's my take on that, though. Tell me what you guys think.